Okay, so for our beet meat, we're gonna be doing a beet taco meat. We're gonna be doing mostly beets, and then to kind of like fill in that beet taco meat to give it a little bit more chew, we're gonna do some soaked cashews. I'm not gonna leave these cashews plain though. I want them to have a little bit of flavor. So all we're gonna do is take about a half of a cup of cashews, we're gonna cover them with hot water, and then we're gonna add about a teaspoon of vegan beef flavor broth. Okay, once we got these covered, we're just gonna throw them in the fridge overnight. That's gonna give these a nice, they're gonna make them really nice and soft. It's gonna kind of be like, you know, like the chewy, like fatty parts of the meat. We just wanna be able to mix that in with the beet, which is gonna be the meat part of the meat. So let's throw this in the fridge overnight. It's the next day. We have our 2 beets. So what we're gonna do here with our beets, we just need to peel these and make a mess. And I actually think probably the best bet is to peel them into like a, peel them into something, but you know, we're just gonna go from here. I totally didn't want golden beets, but this was gonna have to do. So I'm using golden beets. There's no reason for that. You can use red beets, you can use rainbow colored beets. Rainbow colored beets are kind of pretty awesome. People use those a lot. All we're gonna do is just use a cheese grater and we're just gonna grate our beets. We're not gonna do, you know, like you would normally do with like a beef where you would do like a ground beef. We're gonna do these kind of like shredded beef. I think that's gonna be really good. Okay, so we have our beets shredded. This right now, it doesn't really seem like a whole lot like meat, but I mean, it really will come together. I'm just gonna throw this into a bowl here. So now we just need to flavor this up and we're gonna kind of add like a little bit of a binding element to it. We're not making a burger, but we want this to kind of like chunk up and kind of stick together, almost more like how like real meat would, you know, real meat would like stick. So I'm just gonna add a tablespoon of wheat starch. Now you can use just about any starch. Tapioca starch would probably do pretty well. I wouldn't necessarily use corn starch, but it would work if that's what you have. You know what, we're gonna do 2 tablespoons. Now we're just gonna add some flavoring. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of cocoa powder, tablespoon nutritional yeast, teaspoon blackstrap molasses. That's gonna really give these beets a nice irony flavor. Now beets are already loaded in iron, so it already naturally has that kind of like irony taste, which is great for a meaty-like representation. Now at this point, we're gonna be using some black vinegar. I just need a half of a cup of that black vinegar here. That's gonna kind of help pickle these a little bit, which is kind of like what we're looking for. And then just a half of a cup of hot water. We wanna do nice and hot water. And then lastly, we're gonna add a teaspoon of kosher salt. We're trying to kind of like pickle these. We're trying to like pull out a lot of moisture, but also do that whole osmosis process and transfer the flavor and this broth into the beets, along with kind of like firming them up a little bit. It's gonna really make our kind of shredded meat a little bit more realistic. I think these are gonna come out so awesome. I think it's just gonna be so awesome. Now that these are completely covered with liquid, all I'm gonna do is just cover them with a little bit of plastic wrap. I'm gonna push the plastic wrap into the bowl just to kind of make sure that the beets stay covered, you know, to make sure that they're completely underneath their brine. That's also gonna make sure that no air gets in them. And I think it's just gonna kind of speed along this pickling process that we wanna happen. And then all I'm gonna do is just toss these in the fridge for at least a few hours. You know, if you could do this in the morning for dinner that night, I think that's gonna be really great. But yeah, let's go ahead and toss these in the fridge for 3 or 4 hours. We'll come back and we're gonna make some shredded beet tacos that are gonna be just wild. I mean, these are gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. Okay, so the beets are in the fridge. It's been a few hours. They've had time to rest. Let's get moving. I have these cashews that we soaked. Now these cashews are gonna kind of be like the fatty bits. It's gonna add just a variation in the texture, which I always say, variation in texture. It's what makes fake meat taste real. So we have these cashews. You can see they're super tender. They're gonna taste very meaty. It's kind of wild. Let's go ahead and drain this juice out. We're gonna give them a good squeeze in the bowl, and then we're gonna chop them up. Kind of fine, not super fine, but we just wanna chop them up into about a ground beef consistency. Okay, so this looks pretty good. I'm just gonna set it to the side right now. I'm just gonna grab my pulled beet. So, and yeah, this looks really good. It looks exactly like how I wanted it to. It's gonna be kind of like your pulled meat a little bit. All we're doing is we're gonna be adding this in for texture, but let's go ahead and get this drained first. Okay, so the beet is nice and squeezed out. I left some liquid in there, you know, I didn't want it fully like dry, but I squeezed a lot. I squeezed it pretty firm to get out a lot of the juice. I'm gonna add about half of the cashews, just kind of mix it in. We're looking for like more of that authentic kind of meat texture, which I know probably seems weird, but with pulled meat, there's always little burnt ends. There's always little ends and stuff that are in there. It's never perfect. It's never like just like a completely stringy meat. There's always little extra bits. And this is also gonna kind of help simulate some of the softness of like the fat. And I think it's just gonna give it a really nice appearance once this is all mixed in. Now to really make this like meat, we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and mix that in. And now I'm really excited for the rest of this. We're just gonna season it up. I'm gonna make some tacos, so I'm making a taco seasoning. Now you wouldn't wanna have this just how it is. You wanna add another familiar seasoning to it. You could throw this in a pan, simmer it up how it is, and then maybe throw some barbecue sauce on it. That would be really good. You could do like an Asian style sauce with like a sweet chili sauce and some soy sauce. I think that would be really good to get that like Asian style pulled meat. Like I said, I'm gonna do it as that like taco style kind of pulled meat. So I'm gonna start with a teaspoon of onion powder, about a teaspoon of dried oregano, a heavy teaspoon plus some extra of cumin, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, or everything that you have if you have less than a teaspoon. We're gonna do a half teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You can do more if you like a little extra spicy. I like just about that half. I think it's a good mark. 3/4 or a full teaspoon of chili powder. Then we're just gonna do a few shakes of red chili flakes. Love to have these in here. And lastly, a good pinch of black pepper. And then we'll salt that up last. Let's give this a mix. This is gonna be awesome. And I know you're saying right now that this might not come out what you're thinking. Yeah, this might not come out like that pulled meat, but I'm telling you, I think it is. Okay, so this looks great. Now all we're gonna do is just get a nonstick skillet ready. I'm gonna throw a little bit of olive oil in the pan. We're gonna simmer this down kind of like on a low heat for about 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe kick it up near the end just to give it a good simmer. If you want, you can throw a little bit of like a sugar on top to kind of help it brown if you want to sweeten it up. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave it just how it is. Once it's cooking and you start to see it to brown up a little bit, you can throw a little bit more oil in and squeeze in some lime. About a half of a lime is gonna be good enough. Let that cook in. It's gonna really get super meaty. That's all done. Let's make our sauce. I'm just gonna use a little bit of vegan mayo with some lime squeezed in and then top it with some of my favorite Chipotle Tabasco sauce. It's so good. Whisk that up. Then let's top our tiny taco shells with some of our meat. I mean, just look at this pulled meat. This is unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. This looks like a taco. It's gonna taste like a taco. It is going to be friggin' wild. Just absolutely wild. And then look at these tiny tacos. I love them. I just did the tiny tacos because I felt like little street tacos would have been perfect for this kind of dish, and I think it is. I mean, look at this. They look so meaty. They're gonna be good. Wow, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I mean, it is so much like pulled meat. It's scary. I mean, it really is. Has a great texture. The texture is dead on. Better than what I thought it was gonna be. It's fatty, it's juicy, has a nice chew. It really has a lot of those qualities to it that you would get out of like a Mexican-styled pulled meat. Wow. I've done similar recipes when I've made like the carrot tacos, the carrot ground beef, and when I made the cauliflower ground beef. Those both came out really good. Honestly, those were 2 of like some of my favorite plant-based meats out of like more like clean, just vegetables. This is my new favorite one. Yeah, let me know what you think. Cheers. Oh, cheers. There we go.
Holy crap.
It's good, right?
These are like next level, they're so good.
Well, that's it. If you haven't yet, make sure you click the subscribe button. I normally don't ask this, but we need to do it for the algo. Click that like button and leave a comment down below. Are you gonna make these? What are you gonna try with them? My God.